What is up, Dragon Ball community? This is Marcus, Danny, and Shane. We got a special guest, Richard Zapp, here. We're going to be talking about some of the new Set 7 stuff and how it's going to impact the meta on our podcast episode. This is episode 3, I believe. So we got 5 different deck lists to talk about. We might talk about some other stuff, but we're going to focus on these 5. And is there anything y'all wanted to say before we jumped into it?
Now let's just dive right in, man.
All right. So
awkward silence.
Should we do any introductions for people that don't know us? I mean, nobody knew me according to that poll that Shane did. So
sure, everybody introduce yourselves. We'll start with Shane. All right, perfect. Because you're in the top left of the screen.
Name,
Sorry,
favorite animal, favorite Dragon Ball card. Go.
Is I'm the best an answer to any of those?
No, no, it's not, Shane.
Well, that's what I'm going with.
All right, Zapp, your turn.
My name, what's up, Elite and Geeks?
Oh my goodness.
I'm Richard Zapp. I love card games, and you guys, I love armadillos, and my favorite card is Frieza's Army Healing Pod.
That is a sweet card.
Hey,
Go
Marcus
ahead,
had a good time with that card one time.
Marcus, what's your favorite card and animal?
My favorite card, well, right now it's Vegeta the Cruel. I'm a big fan of that card. Favorite animal? Dogs. Just dogs. I know it's boring, but specifically my dogs. They're the best.
Oh my god.
If I had to pick an exotic animal, it's going to be Chinese water dragons.
Sugar gliders are pretty cool.
There you go, Shane. Finally you thought of something other than you're the best. Took you long enough. Danny, favorite card, favorite animal.
What's up, guys? I like Announcer because we got the same fucking hairline. And favorite animal is going to have to be pit bulls because I have a pit bull. She's the best pit bull in the world, and if you think differently, you're wrong. Fun fact.
All right.
I have to go get an armadillo now so I can fit in with everybody.
What are you doing? You don't have an armadillo? I mean,
no.
Slack
I don't
on.
live where you guys do, where you can go in the backyard and watch one hit somebody's car.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fact.
This is true.
All right, so we'll jump into the first deck.
There we go.
The first deck we got on our plate is Yellow Kaba. This is a list that Zapp showed us. It's very, very interesting. Why don't you talk about it a little bit, Zapp?
Talk about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we'll talk together, but obviously I want you to introduce it because it was a deck that you shared with us.
So since Zap's talking about the deck, I can just leave, right? I'm not really needed.
Oh, shut up.
So Universe 6 is interesting because the archetype received a lot of tools to do a lot of different things. On one end, you have cards like Meteoric Energy, Kefla, which is just a control animal. On turn 3, you're tapping out all their energy and you're making them skip turns, and it feels bad. On the other side, you have this very efficient aggro game where you take these 1-drops and you evolve them into 20Ks, a la the old Bardock into Will of Iron combo. So it kind of has some feelings of Storm. And as far as, there's also the hit package, which so far has been underwhelming in testing, but does some really cool things. But as
I see you excluded that from this list here specifically.
Right, yeah. So yeah, the goal here was to consistently be able to resolve Meteoric Energy Kefla on turn 3, which I'd say I've played about 20 games in test hands with the deck, and I've probably done the 16 or 17 of them. Like it's pretty consistent at it. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think depending on how you want to approach the U6 stuff, different leaders have different strengths and weaknesses. So like if I'm playing Khalifa Kale aggro, I'm probably using the yellow Kale leader. If I'm building around Meteoric Energy, I'm playing this Kefla leader. 1, because the untapped 2 is insane, and 2, because this leader just accesses things so quickly.
I mean, from what I can see, like the fact that he's self-awakening, gives something power, to increase the efficiency of your early attacks, and then the backside just seems to do a lot of different things, which, that always gives a lends a lot of strength to a leader when it has a lot of like different axes that it can rotate on.
It does, and one of the weaknesses of Meteoric Energy Kefla is the opponent can play around it. So if they, because Aegis has to activate on defense,
Right.
if I'm playing against Meteoric Energy Kefla on board and they want to tap 3 of my energy, all I do is I use my energy before I start attacking. However, this Kaba Vegeta leader has this awakened ability of if all the energy is tapped and the opponent's leader attacks, it freezes some of their energy.
Right,
So
so
it
like they're less incentivized to play around it because of that. That makes sense.
Exactly. While at the same time, if they use some of their energy and then they start attacking, then they get punished either by Meteoric Energy or by Kefla Peak of Perfection. That when you combo with it defensively, it taps one of their energy, which is just generically one of the most powerful effects we've seen on a card in quite some time.
And I mean,
So
you're
you get
incentivized to
screwed either
combo
way.
with it anyways because it's a 10 for 1, so you're going to get the efficiency of comboing with one card for more value along with tapping down energy.
Precisely. And while the deck can be a little unappealing with a number of 110s, you realize once you get a Vados Champa on board, that all those 110s become 0.5s, essentially for the duration of the game.
It's the same thing we had with apes in the past, you know? You got a King Vegeta into play, and all of a sudden your 12 apes that were left in your deck and your Unbreakables weren't, didn't cost anything anymore.
Precisely.
Yep.
And plus he has this protection effect of when he dies, you can just discard an energy to get him to stay. And in addition to it staying on the board, you can tap one of their energy. So
It's
it
just
can...
nutty.
Yeah, it feels like all these different, like, tap this, tap that, tap this, tap that effects will add up really, really fast.
Correct. And the real kicker is the 3 copies of Flying Nimbus. Not that I'm head over heels in love with the card right now, but whenever Meteoric Energy Kefla is threatening them to not use all their energy right out of the gate, that invites their leader to swing first and walk right into a Nimbus for a pretty big plus.
Maximum
Yeah.
value.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like this deck is just you're screwed any way you cut it once they get that Meteoric Energy Kefla on board.
That's the goal. And while there's definitely opportunities to play around it, and playing Meteoric isn't cheap, right? Because you have to evolve the 4-drop Kale and the 4-drop Khalifa.
Right.
Which so you have to play both 1-drops, and then you have to get the 4-drops on board, which means either comboing 2 energy or first getting Vados Champa,
Right.
which is usually comboing a 110 and paying the 1 for arrival.
I know,
So like it's expensive, but
Right. So I noticed a couple things here looking at the list. Sensu Bean only being 3 copies, was that just so that you could include other interesting cards?
correct.
Okay.
One of the cool things about the deck is because it evolves so much, those pluses can really add up. So the Unawakened Kaba, whenever you play a battle card, it gets +5.
Right.
So if you play, so let's say you're at 8 life and you're at 3 energy, just hypothetically. So you play a 1-drop KO and a 1-drop Khalifa. They both get +5. And then you awaken, and then you use 2 energy to resolve the
evolutions.
or to resolve Vados Champa.
Oh, okay.
And then that lets you play the 2 evolutions for free. So they both got +10 if you can order the awaken, so you don't have to awaken before you
Right,
get
yeah.
Vados Champa
Like the
on
fact
board.
that it gives that +5 every single time and not once per turn, that's actually pretty huge, you're right.
Exactly. So then those double strikers are both swinging 30k, and then when you Union Patara into the Kefla, that 20k gets carried onto the Kefla.
So then she's 50k all of a sudden.
Right, and then if you play Sensu Beans, that adds on to that stacking.
There's a noticeable exclusion of a card that a lot of people would probably consider playing in this type of strategy, and that's the Beerus, the Buddy Land, essentially. The blue-yellow untapped energy. Was that excluded just because, like, we already know what it's there for? Or was it mainly just because you didn't quite have room?
The deck really demands being energy efficient, just based on how important getting your 1-drops to stick are, and because most of these cards, like Vados Champa makes everything mana efficient once you pay a bunch of energy to get on board. So wasting time charging a dual civ rarely feels good.
So you're usually
Kefla-
not charging duels in this deck, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Kefla Peak of Perfection is one of the best cards in the deck, but you only play 3 because you need to be able to charge yellow, yellow, blue, and you need to avoid charging dual civs almost at any cost.
Because there's always something you can do on every single turn, even turn 1, so you never really want to take time off by spending that energy, essentially, on a tapped energy.
Exactly, and when your progression is leaning so heavily, it's particularly the Sisterly Bond Kale on 2, because she almost always gets a Khalifa, because you have the 4 1-drops and the 3 2-drops.
Right.
So you're almost always setting up your turn 2 board to be able to start quick evoing on 3.
Sure, for sure.
So resolving Nimbus, or not Nimbus, Planet Vegeta on 1 really ensures that you get to that on 2, which, again, you don't have a window to play to charge dual civs when you have an ideal turn 1, turn 2 progression.
Right. All right, well, that deck looks super sweet. It's definitely something I'd like to try playing, and we'll see how it shapes up in the meta. It seems like it's got a lot of different things it's trying to do, and it doesn't really strain itself in trying to accomplish them. And so that's always a recipe for, a powerful deck.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's super good, and it's one of those things, though, that once you understand how to play around it, or you understand where the weaknesses of it are, like, a lot of these evolutions involve going into a battle phase. So if you can time your combos and your negates around those key attacks, you can often bottleneck the leader. But yeah, no, I think you described it well.
Yeah, it's kind of like back when playing against Storm and understanding, like, when they played a Bardock that maybe wasn't an ideal line unless they were going to evolve on it, that kind of deal. So you understand when to negate attacks that you otherwise wouldn't negate for that purpose. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
Spoken like a national or a top 32 a national player, for sure.
Yeah, we got 2 of those here, but we're trying to repeat that this year, and that's why we're talking about new decks, right?
Danny's a scrub.
Shane, thank you so much for your intellectual interjection there.
Yeah, perfect.
Anytime. You're welcome.
So our next deck on the table is OG Broly. Super excited to look at this deck. It's got a huge boost by SS3 Broly, the ISR from set 7, because there's not a lot of ways to deal with turn 4, this giant 8-drop that brings out a giant 7-drop that, the 8 drops 35,000 power, the 7 drops 30k, critical, it's got barrier, and it attacks multiple times or takes cards out of their hand. And then everything leading up to that is all just card denial, which is, the essence of green. So, looking at the list here, there's a couple new... specifically, the new card we're seeing is Super Saiyan 3 Broly, Saiyan Berserker, but we're including cards from set 6. I mean, basically, this card's from all over the lifespan of this game in this deck, and it's actually kind of neat to see that with an OG leader.
Super agree. Yeah, this ISR is awesome. One of the random things completely separate from this deck is, as we all know, these ISRs, you can only play them in monocolored decks. And it's worth mentioning that if you wanted to, you could play a Furthering Destruction Champa or 1 Overwhelm card in here, as long as you're not afraid of it being discarded or it being milled with Janemba. Yeah, then you can still kind of get away with it. But what's really cool is the first effect completely ignores that restriction.
Yeah, the play him effect.
No, you discard this card.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
You look for a Brawly's ring and you put it in play, and then you can pick up some life. So
right. This just eliminates the need for Paragus, which is awesome.
Right, but more relevantly is that effect is restricted to any Brawly leader, which means that if you wanted to, you could splash this in the black leader or the red leader, and even though you can't hard cast it, you can still get that self-burn effect, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I just said that's definitely a linchpin. As we know, the leader itself isn't fantastic, so being able to awaken to get more value out of it is super duper important. Being able to awaken on turn 2 or 3, you see we play a lot of cards that self-hurt to ensure that we do that.
Yeah, technically we have, 12 copies of cards that take life? We got the 4
Correct.
ISRs and then 4. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're trying to awaken turn 2 or turn 3 at the latest, right?
Right. Yeah. So that Infinite Sane is definitely the most important card to see. Not only in the it has 3 applications. One, to self awaken you and get Brawly's Ring on board. So ideally you see one turn 1 or 2, and then when you swing with the leader, you discard it to trigger it off. Ideally on turn 3 or 4, you want to get to another one where you can hardcast it on 4 and play the 7-drop. And then in Magical Christmas Land, you have a third one the turn you want to go for game. So imagine so let's say on your turn 4, you swing with your leader and you pop your Brawly's Ring. To trigger your leader ability, you pop Brawly's Ring, you kill their battle card. Now it comes back to your turn 5. Excuse me.
Please don't die on our podcast.
I will be sure to do that. So turn 5, you do whatever you want to do with your energy, and then you swing with a 7-drop or a 6-drop, or it'd have to be a 7-drop. So either the infinite rare or the 7-drop that looks at their hand and discards stuff.
Right.
So you swing with that, and then you swing with your leader. You discard a 3rd copy of the infinite rare that gets the Brawly's Ring.
Right.
And then you pick up your life and you go to 1 life. And then you use the leader's ability to pop the 7-drop you already swung with. And that triggers your Brawly SCR.
Okay.
And you set yourself to 1 life. So the leader resolves, they probably take the damage, and now you have an SCR that's going to swing twice and discard their hand.
Yeah, for sure. Super powerful. Like the fact that the deck lends itself so well to this to the OG leader in doing what it feels like it was designed to do. It's actually kind of exciting. Shane, what do you think about this deck? I know you were kind of excited for it. You even went and picked up a Broly Secret Rare.
Okay, so hold on. I wasn't ready to get segued into that, my bad.
I think it's gonna be good. I like seeing all the pieces come together, like you said, Marcus. Where it's just there's a card from every set pretty much in here, and it's just cool to see. I'm sure we'll see a lot of this in the prelims that are coming up, and I think it'll be. I definitely know like 3 or 4 players in my locals who will be playing something pretty similar to this.
One of the biggest concerns is the Broly discarding effect isn't optional, right? Like you have to make your opponent do that.
The opponent always has to discard, yes.
Right.
You only discard if you don't have Brawly's Ring.
Right.
But
the
in
reason
some
why I ask is
situations,
because of Mercenary Tau.
I see.
Mercenary Tau, something like obviously you have sideboard counterplay for that in the form of Krillin being able to pop it because it is a green card, so it fits in here nicely out of the board. But that's the kind of card where a turn 1 Tau unanswered means you just lose.
Correct. That's what I was gonna say.
That is a depressing realization.
Yeah, because you can't do anything about your lead. You just don't attack with your leader until you answer it. But at that point, then you're not doing what your deck wants to do, and you're just trying to do your other things, like attacking with 1-drops and 2-drops and 4-drops.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Tao's cost getting reduced. That's only in hand.
Yes, correct. It's a 2-drop in play.
You probably don't sideboard Krillin and probably just sideboard Father Son.
Well, it has barrier, so you can't. It has
barrier, yeah.
Just kidding.
That's what you get for not reading cards.
You could take a single turn off to kill a Tau. I mean, and there's one of those things where the likelihood of seeing a Tau isn't even that high unless this deck is popular. So you could very well see success with this deck at the beginning of a format before it's established. But it's gonna struggle once the metagame has been kind of finalized and people understand what you're playing against.
Is there another discard hand control deck out there right now? The other one is Mira, but that's a warping.
Right. A lot of the other hand control decks don't really directly discard. They usually warp or for example, Harudegarn puts cards back on the deck, and a Demigra combos with them from their hand. So
just Slug really, and this deck is
this deck's way better than Slug though.
Correct. Yeah, definitely at first glance it definitely looks. But I'd have to play into it. I don't have any.
It's just more powerful than Slug, Slug is play my 20k, play another 20k, deal with it.
It has the $200 SCR, has to be better.
Exactly, and that's the rule, right, Shane?
So, Zap, have you done any like testing with this list yet?
I've played about 5 games with it. Yeah.
What did you play into?
What matchups I played against?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Okay.
To be honest.
So
No, that's
how
fine.
like
This might have been the first deck that I built for the format.
Right.
with a first impression, how strong do you think?
So so comparing where it would have fit in like the previous metagame, I think it would have been somewhere between as impactful as Slug and as impactful as Vaku Ramp.
So like
So
a solid tier 2, tier 3 maybe.
That's about the power level. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it could. I feel like it could top. It not being able to being very limited to just one color for the most part, makes me a little apprehensive about it. But what the deck is trying to do, it does well, and it hits all the checks, right? It has removal. It has a way to reliably awaken. It has a way to be energy efficient, and it has a way to do something unfair, which is discard the opponent's hand.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the kill turn in a perfect world is turn.
A lot happens in turn 4. I've seen it turn 4 to turn 5, about where the rest of the format tends to be.
Yep.
So
healthy
you
enough.
can theoretically beat something like Shenron Gogeta as long as you win the dice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And Shenron Gogeta, like, it suffers to hand control to some extent, because it's still got so many moving pieces.
I think that's like the biggest question you have to ask right now when getting like the new meta is, can this deck beat Shenron Gogeta?
Yeah, and I don't think you have an issue there. Like I imagine how. So like if you go turn 1, you play the 1-drop. Turn 2, you do whatever you want. Maybe, or I guess turn 2 probably self-awakening cards. Turn 3, you evolve it into Deathless Warrior Brawly, which is going to pretty much guarantee 2 discards. Turn 4, you probably go the Saiyan Rare into the
7-drop.
The 7-drop Brawly the Supreme Berserker. You look at their hand and you discard a card. That probably hits their 1 desire, and that puts them back so they can't do anything right away. And then on the next turn, you could evolve that Deathless Warrior into the 6-drop, or you could play another
ISR.
Infinite Rare and go into something
Like,
else. Or
I'm just asking because if we're like even remotely, like if we remotely think this is viable, then I'm probably gonna test it a lot and consider it for Orlando.
Yeah, I definitely think you should. I think citing 4 copies of Double Impact Krillin, aka the most impactful card in the game, is probably a good place to start. But yeah, no, if your goal was to top the event with something swaggy, I would highly encourage anybody to consider playing it.
It's definitely really cool.
I mean, it's going to be one of the most expensive decks you can play, so obviously it's got to be good.
It can't be wrong, right?
Never.
So I think we've talked about this deck enough. It looks powerful. It's on the same kill clock that a lot of the other decks in the meta are on, but at the same time, it's got a big flaw in that it's super weak to Mercenary Tau. But again, it's one of these decks that you could probably get away with potentially even winning an event once.
Yeah.
And then people will be prepared for it enough that you'll be unlikely to do like anything other than topping with it. Is probably unlikely to happen.
You
Yeah,
guys
it's,
heard here first. This deck's winning Orlando.
it's one of them one and done kind of decks. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Well, it's kind of like Cronoa, right? Like Shigesh was only as effective when people weren't playing Cronoa.
Yep.
But Shigesh still managed to impact the game.
Or like
despite
Shigesh being a one-of in the Height of Mastery decks was like you weren't citing in Cronoa for that one-of Shigesh if you didn't have you weren't forcing it into your deck for that one-of if you didn't have extra cards to take out. So like you said, it was still impacting the game even though through the existence of Cronoa.
Exactly.
So we'll move on to our next deck. This is a deck that Zapp also provided for us. He's come here with a lot of decks for us. So this is
Shane doesn't brew.
Our
When
black
you have
deck
the
of
best
choice.
deck builder, when you have the best deck builder in the game as your visitor, I mean, it's hard
Stop.
not
That was one Facebook poll. Stop.
to.
So this is a Toki Toki City Demigra deck. I was personally super excited for the ISR Black Goku as a engine for Demigra because between Toki Toki City and like Wormhole, the ISR felt like a really like powerful thing you could be doing for how cost effective it was.
It's not even in this list, though.
It's not. No, I was talking about it as something that I was interested in, Shane. But
But,
the list we got here is just a generically. Shut up. The list we got here is a generically good Black Overwhelm deck.
Marcus just went full Kanye. He's like, I like you listed, I'm gonna let you finish, but...
Look, Shane. So obviously we got Vegeta, the time regulator. We got the Anniversary Box Fu, very powerful card. But we can talk about the new cards that are going in here from Set 7. Toki Toki City, Demigra the Sorcerer, Time Regulator Trunks, and the new 1-drop Negate are the ones I see in this list here. This deck's got a lot of draw power. I see, from what I've seen in previous iterations of Demigra, it's kind of doing the same thing of like, it's a Toki Toki toolbox deck, kind of, right? But it's leveraging Toki Toki City as a way to establish a board.
Partially, yeah. So I definitely agree with you that building up a lot of the 1-drops try to accomplish one of two things. They either self-awaken or they draw cards.
Right.
My experience with Demigra has been the deck struggles the longer it takes for it to awaken. And that's simply because to get your value, you want to be overwhelmed twice per turn.
Right.
As you see, almost every overwhelm in this deck replaces itself with additional cards.
So
And not
I noticed you had 4 power of seeing time, but only 3 time regulators. Is that like to leverage against like decking out, or
correct? Yeah, that's exactly it.
I can see that.
Boy,
much-
there's 4 Dark Vanisher Foos here.
Yeah, 'cause that's how you win
Holy
the game.
crap.
You land that card with the Toki Toki City in play, and your opponent's just not winning anymore.
Correct. Yeah. So what's interesting is that for the Toki Toki City, when you use that ability, you can use it at any point during the turn. It can be the beginning of the turn. It can be the end of the turn. It changes the rules of the game so that overwhelm cards stick. So you can manipulate that to make sure your first few sticks. But then you can also Toki Toki City doesn't go away when you resolve it. So
Right.
I've been able to do very cool things. Like if I played it on 1, Overwhelm on 2, Overwhelm on 3, Awaken on turn 4, do my first Overwhelm, that puts me at 3, and then I use the Toki Toki City effect. And now the second part of my turn 4 is playing the Fu. That puts the first card underneath. I go into turn 5, I do a vanilla Overwhelm, or a basic Overwhelm, and then I do another Banisher Fu, and that puts me to 3 for Toki Toki City, and now the second Fu is sticking as well.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Ew.
The fact that you like the first Fu you get into play is super impactful. When I first saw this card, I wanted to put it in Vector Ramp because I just wanted to hardcast it, so it stayed around for a full turn cycle at least.
That's what this does.
Right, and so this does it, but on turn 4 with 4 energy, and like it just seems really sweet. Of course, there's a $160 price tag on this deck minimum. But I mean, if it's the kind of deck you want to play, you pick that card up. So
Remember when this game was cheap?
I mean, it still is
It
cheap.
still
I
is
mean,
cheap.
it is cheap. It's just that there's a tier 1.5 deck that you have to dish out money to play.
Right,
And
like
if that's one deck, I'm okay with that. If it's the best deck in the format and I need to pay $80 to have my 4 Paths to Greatness, yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit salty if I can't compete otherwise. But when this isn't definitively the best deck in the format by any means,
you're making a choice to
And
play a lesser
$300
strategy.
for your victory strike.
but other than that, you'll see a lot of the Overwhelm that I have a lot of draw power. That's just because you need to see Toki Toki on 2. This Bardock Overwhelm is like like, do you remember in set 2 when we first got the Overwhelm cards and you played Time Patrol Trunks
In every
and
deck.
you're just like, yeah, and you're like, there's no reason not to play this.
Right.
Bardock feels like that a lot of the time. I
Yeah.
remember I was watching people play at a recent regional, and their Janimba lists were still playing Light Skied Supreme Kaya Time.
Well, they could just play this card.
Exactly. When, like, there were so many times where I played that card in Janimba after my leader swung. I swung with my leader, I drew a card, and I drew the Overrun.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, this +5 doesn't do anything anymore.
Yup.
Yeah, it's
Not-
it's really unique how the +5 that it gives, plus like comboing with or attacking with the Light Skied, is equivalent to a 20,000 body, and the 20,000 body also digs 1 deeper.
Correct. Yep. And just improves the quality of your...
Yeah, no, that's super relevant. I actually hadn't even thought about that because it is a 4 cost, so it does fit into Janemba nicely.
Yep. And then if you're playing a deck with Objection, being able to discard your dead copy of Objection just
Oh, yeah.
feels great. Particularly in something like a Rudigar.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, other than that, I think most of the cards are pretty straightforward. Supreme Kaya Time Disruptor, this counterplay that stops 2 or less from attacking. That is going to be one of the most important cards in the form. You
What-
heavily need to consider siding multiple copies in any deck that you're playing if you're not maining it.
Yeah, I like the card a lot. I think it's the kind of card where if you're already in blue and you have the opportunity to play a card on 2 that but you don't have anything important on 2, I think Striving's better because the static text plus barrier is relevant for a longer game, in my opinion. But I do like the Kai a lot because it's harder to play around. Okay, so it goes both ways. It's easier to play around in some spots, but harder to play around in others.
I actually feel the opposite.
How so?
I think the Kai is infinitely easier to play around.
That's contextual of the state of the game, though. It's like, if you don't have an established board already, then the Kai is going to do what it needs to do if it's going to be effective.
Kai allows you to bait out plays, though.
So let's speak about a common hypothetical situation. We're playing Demigra versus Skillless. Let's
Sure.
pretend you didn't hit your 1 drop, and like Training Buddy Krillin is the ideal turn 2 play, right?
Usually.
How does that situation change between having Striving to be the best and Time Disruptor?
Going first or second.
Either way.
If you went first, then you played it before they got to 2. And they don't get to attack, obviously, right? But going second with Striving, you can't play it in response to the Training Buddy, so they get that full turn of attacks.
So let me ask you and throw this at you.
So I'm vying for Supreme Kai if you're going second, obviously.
Right.
Even if not, though, so let's say that you Striving turn 2, right? Like you went first, your turn 1, you just played whatever. Turn 1, they played their Kid Coup. And then turn 2, you played Striving. Well, then you change what they're going to do.
Right.
They're going to Kid Coup for the 30K, and then your Striving has done nothing. And at that
But that's
time,
not-
at that
that's
point
not
in
true.
time,
I don't think
I
it's
think
done
at
nothing.
that point, the Striving has done a lot.
Forcing their line of play to change is relevant.
but going tall on Kid Coup is just as relevant.
I guess that depends on what deck you're playing. If it's Demigra, for example, because obviously I brought up the Striving example, and that took us off of the example we had here. So like, I like Kai because it's a piece of information that leaves room for mistakes. Like it leaves room for your opponent to make a mistake, and that is relevant for sure. That's what separates good players from bad players, is having to make decisions and making the correct decision.
Right, like trying to play around Time Disruptor and trying to play around Nimbus at the same time feels virtually impossible, right? Especially if you don't have any guys on board.
Sure.
Good example of that.
So something that I noticed that's missing in here that I'm just curious about, the Revenge blocker that you warp to for, is that just not in here just because it takes away from the drop that you're trying to get with the Toki Toki City?
2 energy was a lot for me. One thing about this deck is that it's relatively efficient on the combo.
So it's free though, because you only have to warp the 2 cards.
No, you still have to pay 2
No,
energy.
you definitely have to.
Oh, did that come out?
Yeah, the warping
that
2
was-
cards is an additional part of the cost, kind of like playing Nimbus, how you have to discard a yellow card in it.
I
Or
thought
no,
that-
bad ring rather. You have to discard a yellow card.
Did I read their email wrong though? 'Cause
I don't
thought
know.
that it said that
It-
they didn't have
Emails are not.
No, the problem was you read the email. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Can
overall,
anybody spot the noob?
it's a
Yeah.
counterplay. You pay the cost, and then you pay the additional cost of warping 2 from your yard.
Yeah. To answer your original question before we go into the next deck, Marcus, the reason the Son Goku engine didn't make it into this deck is so this deck is built around a specific turn 4 play,
Right.
which is Fu the Dark Banisher.
And the Son Goku takes up that slot.
Correct, because you can't play him until you're at 4 energy.
And that's totally fair. I mean, I think Fu's probably way stronger than the Goku anyways, so that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, so if you wanted to build a deck around that card, what I would do is I would actually play not the critical Mass Saiyan, but the Bloodthirst Black Vegeta Mass Saiyan.
Ravager?
No,
No,
the
I
leader.
know what leader he's talking about.
Oh,
He's the Burst 3 leader,
Yeah,
and then you look at the bottom cards. Yeah, so what you would always do is you'd play mono black, and you would keep on trying to burst into either the Goku Overrealm or the Infinite Saiyan rare,
right.
and then you would just keep on pulling those back into from your warp to your drop every time you Overrealm, and then use the leader ability to pull those cards back. And your goal would be to try to drop 2 of those on turn 4.
That's fair. Yeah, it was just like the first thing that came to mind, but
Mhm.
I think I like Toki with the Fu turn 4, Fu turn 5 way better. So
Yeah, and I wanted this to be the Toa leader because you can tutor the Fu off the Toa,
right,
but because you're only overwhelming once per turn in that deck, it mandates that you see Toki City by 2.
right.
And
And
the
like on
leader
top
doesn't
of it,
draw
you don't get as much value out of the Toki if you're not putting 2 guys into play that stay.
Right, and if you don't open Toki City, which you're not going to do 55% of the time, then you can't play Vegeta on 2 and Toki City, unless that's the turn you awaken. And
Right.
It feels bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super fair.
Deck's super solid though. I like it.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's fun.
was there?
I
anything
would-
you- Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, it's, there's that Red Green King Vegeta list that I posted publicly on the 3xG Patreon today. But if I was going, I would pick between Sharon and Gogeta, a Demigra list that looks like this, or the King Vegeta deck for lols. But yeah, I think this is one of the most competitive decks in the format.
Yeah, it looks super sweet. Was there anything you wanted to say about the deck, Shane, before we moved on?
No, not really.
Okay. Our next list was a blue leader. It's Iron Vow Trunks, another kind of old leader, Colossus Warfare. But it's playing the Vegito engine, blue-yellow cards, and it's focused around counterplays. So this deck has 8 counterplays in it. I was kind of surprised to see it, but it looks super, super entertaining. So we got cards from the Anniversary box in here, set 4, set 7, set 6. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in here, and it just looks like it's utilizing the untap from Trunks to always have a counterplay ready, while also pressuring with cards like the Vegito engine and the Trunkses and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. So first and foremost, I want to shout out to John Connor. John was a player that I met. We played at the Celebration event in North Carolina back in March, and we had a pretty cool game. He reached out to me later on to do some theory crafting, and we've been having some regular conversations. Iron Vow Trunks was a leader that he's always wanted to make work, and we spent some time trying to evolve a list, and this is where some suggestions by me plus his work has brought him into. So definitely want to give him 1,000% of the credit for this list.
Okay, for sure.
So some of the cool synergies is I really want to point out Trunks' Forerunner of Hope. That tends to be a cornerstone of the deck.
It's the championship pack card, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, and what that does is that pulls a 3-drop with 15k or more power whenever you play it. However, and then the Trunks goes into your energy area, which means essentially it takes that 3-drop in your energy and it plays it for 2. So what that allows you to do is between that energy and then the energy you get for untapping with your leader, you're going to be able to consistently play a negate, which is a pretty cool premise. Additionally, you have that championship pack Vegeta. That's going to give you draws whenever you untap with Sensu Bean, whenever you untap with Dimension Magic,
Right.
whenever you awaken. whenever you play the Gohan counterplay. The Gohan counterplay untaps 1 energy. And when you play Sensu Bean defensively, it all gives you a draw, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, so like when you have the Gohan bouncing something, untapping an energy, drawing you a card, just any of your like defensive measures replacing themselves makes a huge difference.
Exactly. And then, the one downside to this 2-cost Vegeta is you're kind of like, so it's only valuable if I get multiple draws off of it, right? Otherwise it's not worth 2 energy.
Right.
So in that case, I don't really want to swing with it. However, with the leader's ability, you can swing with the 2-drop and then untap it, so it stays relatively safe.
That's nice. It's super relevant.
Yeah.
So all of your energy in this deck has to be blue, correct?
No, you are allowed to charge dual civs. That is.
No. I meant specifically you're not charging your black or yellow cards.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And of course, we get to play the nice new handy dandy secret rare, the Vegito. I'm actually super excited for that card. It looks super powerful. But if it has a spot in the meta or not is the biggest question.
So, my experience with the leader with that SCR has actually been pretty poor.
Really?
It's one of those things where everybody runs the negates that you can play for free from your hand.
Right.
And that really invalidates what that battle card can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Me and Frisco Foss have been working on a deck centered around the yellow Gohan leader from set 5. He's like a Harudegar, and he discards yellow.
Yeah.
To unawakened, and his awakened effect is take any yellow Saiyan that's 3 or higher cost and put it in your hand.
Right, so you can tutor it.
Right, so he can tutor it. But then every time you resolve it for 5 energy, it doesn't feel like it did enough. So
yeah,
so we're still trying to figure out how to get there.
Tapping down's only sweet when you have bad ring and your battle card guarantees kills them.
Right, when you have things already established on board.
Yep.
Agreed there.
Yeah.
Other than that, the other really cool target for Forerunner of Hope is Vegeta Powers Combined. Playing it immediately gives you a draw, which kind of already gives you value other than the 1 energy. And then assuming Powers Combined sticks, then you can go into full throttle on the following turn for 2 energy.
And that card's so strong.
Yeah, when it goes off, it's so cool. It's my boy Jose Mercado's favorite card. We're still trying to make that work.
Shane felt that firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at Vegito World's Strongest Candy at all?
The
For
2
players with Vegeta's Power Combined?
I'm familiar with the card. In my opinion, so you're basically trading, was it 2 energy or 1 energy?
It's I think it's 2 to activate Vegito.
Yeah. So you're trading 2 energy. You get 1 15k swing, and then you swap it back and you draw another card. So you're trading 2 energy for a 20k swing, a 15k swing, and a draw. There's a decent amount of debate on if that's worthwhile value.
If it's worth more than just like 2 25s.
Yeah. Jose thinks that it's generally worth it. I'm of the opinion that it's generally not.
Makes sense.
There is a new tournament pack. Vegito is a blue-yellow 2-cost that lets you combo with a dual civ whenever he swings or when he gets swung at.
Lets you discard a card.
Yeah, that's a legal target for Vegito Powers Combined as well.
Right. I also like that you can bring out 4-drop Vegito with the Vegito Powers Combined. The Ultimate Box, Ultimate Box one.
Awe-inspiring.
Yep,
yeah.
Awe-inspiring.
But yeah,
one of the things about the Vegito going into the candy I didn't like. Like, I like it, but at the same time, the fact that it's another aspect that gets shut down by cards people are already playing in Striving and Supreme Kai, because it's a 2-drop.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't feel as worth it.
Yeah. Makes sense. I just wanted to put it on it.
Yeah. I do like that it's another card you'd never mind charging.
Yeah, it's free energy.
Aside from that, though, like, this is like the first time we've ever been in a meta where we can play so many counterplays in the same deck, right? And this one being able to play 8 different ones that generally replace themselves, along with giving you another benefit either in a form of tempo or defense or whatever it may be. This looks like a super exciting deck.
Yeah, it's that I haven't got a chance to get my hands on it. The leader is near the top of my list of leaders to explore. But I think one of the cornerstones of the format, I'm theorizing, is going to be finding ways to get value out of these counterplays. So thinking about leaders like U7 Vegeta that generates energy, maybe Soul Striker even. You know, the next.
It kind of segues us into our next deck, which
What's
is
our next deck?
It was a red deck that is also doing something similar. It's boring. It's Pan. But like you said, it's a way to leverage advantage off of counterplays. So, as everybody knows, when you play a battle card with Pan, if it goes up to 2,000 power afterwards, you'll draw a card. And it works on both players' turns. So, with these new counterplay battle cards like Vegeta the Cruel and Mach Speed Goku, they both will go up to 20k and draw a card while doing something else. So, like Vegeta the Cruel, killing something, making them warp a card, and drawing you a card feels really powerful for 2 energy.
Took the words out of my mouth. Yeah. So I think what people are going to overlook is the math when it comes to these. So you have these powerful battle card negates. They're 3, but they go down to 2 when you have a dual civ.
Right.
However, you're charging a dual color in the first place.
Right.
So you're already losing 1 energy to save 1 energy afterwards. So in that situation, you either need to resolve multiple over the course of the game for it to be a net positive, or you need to generate advantage with that battle card in some direct way other than attack. And so, for example, with the Iron Vow Trunks list we saw, by being an untapped 2 leader that untaps an energy every turn, you increase the likelihood of being able to untap one. With Pan, getting that additional draw with these negates that you wouldn't get otherwise is a justified value for losing out on that.
Exactly. It's just like, typically you don't see people play the 1-cost 10Ks that play themselves in most decks, except for specific situations, but Pan has always been one of those decks that's justified in playing it because it gets a draw off of it, just like Hercule, and just like Genema played it because it was something that helped you fight against the aggro strategies. So, like you said, you're getting that secondary value out of it, aside from just being something you're playing.
Right. So right now, your list, has 4, 8, 11 different ways to play battle cards on the opponent's turn?
Right. And they'll all generate some sort of value when you do that, be it Gogeta KOing something and then drawing you a card, Vegeta the Cruel KOing something, warping a card from their hand, drawing a card, Mach Speed, Kaioken Goku killing something, drawing a card.
And then getting a pump off Fearless Pan later.
Right. Or like double shot blocking an attack coming into play and drawing you a card. Like, there, all of these different ways of playing cards in your opponent's turn leaves you in this spot where, like, you look at all of that, and then they still have to play around Denial of Hope and Negates.
Yeah.
It's neat because it makes you feel like you're playing the game more on your opponent's turn than you are on yours. And
right, it's like a flash deck from Magic.
That's not something that we've had access to in this game, which is pretty cool. Vegeta the Cruel being the definitely the best counterplay that we've seen of all of these. Maybe Champa gives it a bit of argument, but discarding a card, killing a battle card, and then so being a 15k body is huge. One of my favorite combos in the whole set. So one of the decks that I think are going to be pretty popular is going to be a red-green Vaku ramp deck, where you try to ramp to Kaioken because that card is it's all right. It's all right.
It kind of does stuff.
Yeah. So imagine going into turn 7, and you the previous turn you played a Vegeta the Cruel, and you pop one of their guys, right? So you go into 7 energy. It's like your turn 5. Imagine for 0 energy evolving that Vegeta the Cruel into a 1-hit destruction Vegeta.
Refresh me. What does that card do again?
That is the first promo in the history of the game. It is a 25k blue card with triple strike that if you have a Vegeta on board, you evolve it for 0 energy if you have 7 or more energy already.
Okay. And so it's just a triple striker for free?
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. Like, it's a blue card. Yeah, I remember that card, because I remember my first time getting one, I was like, hey, this card sucks. Because we were already way past the stage of that card ever being playable.
Oh, gotcha.
But now, of course, we're in a stage where you just mentioned a little neat combo that might actually be relevant, Like, we gotta wait to see that one. But Yeah, it's like... So we have a few other new cards in this pan list. Denial of Hope, obviously. Probably the most powerful extra card counterplay they printed, aside from Frost Deadly Poison.
You want to know a secret?
What's that secret?
It single-handedly puts red back on the map.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The fact that
It's
this
really
can
good.
counter Zeno, like you can let them chain attack and then play the Zeno and just kill the Zeno, which I think is actually better than killing the chain attack, because like while they get the body from the chain attack, it takes the Zeno out of their hand that they would otherwise then be able to play off of another Zeno, or
Right,
off of
and
another
while
chain attack.
Mm-hmm. And while preemptive strike sometimes feels a little bit bad because it can hit finishers, there are some relevant cards that are 5 costs or more that don't have 20k power. So you brought up a good example with Zeno.
Yep.
The new hit, the Universe 6 hit.
Yeah, it's a 5-drop,
That,
right?
Yep, it's a 519. There's
Okay.
a few cards like that.
Yeah, for
have
sure.
really powerful. Sorry. Were you gonna say something,
No, go ahead.
Danny?
Oh no, dude! I was just my legs falling asleep. I'll say something at the end because I do have one critique. of this deck.
Sure.
But other than that, we talked about familiar bonds, which is a way to make Pan more energy efficient. That's not something we've seen a lot of. And then getting 4-star balls just to randomly get advantage off of that energy efficiency. One of the cuter things about the deck is you have that trunk surge of power to draw off Pan's ability.
Right.
If you swing with either the trunks or something else, and you use 4-star ball, 4-star ball is going to pump that trunks and net you a draw with it.
Yep.
So it's a cool little way to constantly get value and improve the quality of your hand even after resolving a familiar bonds.
So like even like an early line, you could like turn 1 charge a Broly, right? And then their opponent attacks, defend with the trunks, untap, charge an energy, play familial bonds, play trunks, search 2 balls, draw a card, attack, do your thing. Then they go and they try to attack the trunks, and you combo with the 4-star ball to protect it, and it replaces itself.
Almost.
Is it
So
sometimes?
trunks only triggers on your own on the turn player.
Is
or
it?
on
I thought it was
player's
just once
turn.
per turn.
Nope, it's once.
I
per
haven't
turn
had a
on
spot
your
yet
turn.
where I've had to combo on my opponent's turn to defend the trunks, and I haven't had that come
It
up.
does just say once per turn.
The text on the card says if
Okay.
it's your turn. I promise. Trust me.
I'm gonna look that up because if you're wrong, I'm gonna
Well,
feel
Danny likes
stupid.
being right.
Then
Nah, I'm more than Shane.
I will build you a pan deck and I'll ship it to you if you're correct.
Danny's just being petty.
And I'll make sure there's 7 copies of 4-star ball in it. But yeah.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. I'm just.
Danny's just like turned his computer off.
Sorry, I was like looking at the small print. I was like looking at the thing.
That's that happens to me all the time. I was really excited because I wanted to play Trunk Surge with Power with combination attack Pan, and use combination attack Pan to pump it every turn. But apparently, the guy needs to be 25k in the first place to even play the combination attack.
Yeah.
So like apparently, I don't read the fine print either, man.
Look, when we were building a deck the other day or yesterday, that Kaioken deck that Shane sent you, when we first started drafting the deck, he didn't realize Kaioken said you had to have 20 red or green cards in your yard to get the cost
He actually
reduction.
didn't realize that it got the dual attack or triple strike. I don't know what he thought was good about the card.
He just
other
knew it was a
than that.
multi-Thoughtseize. That's all he knew.
All I knew was that you got to look at their hand and take cards, and that's
He
broken
didn't even
in
know
and
it gained
of
25,000 power.
You
Like-
knew it was the rarest Goku in the set, so you knew it had to be playable. That's what I hear you say.
There's only one other card that I really want to talk about in this list.
That's not. Hold on. The rarest
Oh,
Goku
God.
in set 4 is still garbage.
What is the rarest Goku in the set?
Goku Jr.
He said in set 4. He said, because you said it's the rarest Goku in the set, so it's got to be good. He said, but the rarest Goku in set 4 is garbage still, so
I mean, Son Goku Jr. is a completely different card.
it is, absolutely.
Or a different character, but
No, still Goku.
I'll let you live in magical shame, man.
There you go. Well, he always lives there. You don't have to allow him
Yeah.
to.
Danny, you said you had a critique.
Okay, so the only critique I have, and I can respect that there's not room, but with how much you pop, just the freeness of surprise attack freezes seems like it would be.
Yeah, it absolutely deserves a slot in this deck, for sure.
Or we
Surprise
thought
attack
like
freeze is super good.
possibly like Legit could probably come out.
Maybe.
And maybe Mock Speed. Those are 2 cards that just off the top of my head looking at. 2 cards that
Yeah,
could come in.
like
for
this
surprise
list would
attack.
actually absolutely need a bunch of refinement. Like I don't think it's ever correct to play less than 4 of these overwhelms that draw 2 and discard 1 in these pan lists. It just feels super powerful.
Pan can struggle to get stuff that can get cards in the discard.
Well,
It
with Time
struggles hard.
Regulator being
I don't
3
know
cards,
if 4 is the correct answer,
and you have so
but
many...
it definitely needs some.
One of the reasons why I think it's a little bit different now is because we're playing a lot more extra cards, and like cards we're playing on our opponent's turn with the intent of like getting value out of them, right? So cards like Denial of Hope, Familial Bonds, 4-star Ball, and like even our counterplays, like if we have to combo with them or they die in battle or whatever. I feel like there's going to be more instances of cards entering your graveyard in this, at least this type of pan deck. And it's a consistency thing, you know?
Yeah. Danny, you know what idea you just gave me that seems amazing on paper, or in theory?
What you got?
Transcendent Strike. Use 1 energy for Transcendent Strike, pop a guy, play Surprise Attack Frieza, get the draw, get the crit, swing for 1, pass on your turn, use your energy for a double shot Vegeta or for a negate.
That is a 1
for a
energy.
counterplay.
Pop a card, get a crit out, and draw a card, and that's pretty good for
No.
what? Transcendent Strikes at 1 energy?
Yeah, no, I like that. I like it a lot.
This is what happens for any of you wondering how to get better at the Dragon Ball Super trading game. You surround yourself with individuals that aren't afraid to say, or that aren't afraid to at least have a conversation about an idea. Like Transcendent Strike is not a card that has seen any play competitively yet, but like, you know, Shane could have just laughed at me and convinced me to get off the podcast here if he wanted to. But no, he was being a respectful, elite, and player. And
I like how you said respectful and he laughed at you.
No, but like he has a point because like we just talked about how I had no idea what KO.
Right. The only thing I wanted to talk about specifically with this list is the inclusion of Trunks Time Regulator over Bardock Awakened Instincts. Bardock, you know, for 1 more overrun, you get a 20,000 body that does the exact same thing, right? In the original draft of this list, we were playing Trunks Time Regulator because it... I'm getting a phone call. I don't want that, not right now. We played Trunks Time Regulator because we were playing Yamcha, or Everybody's Pal Yamcha. Trunks Time Regulator is an Earthling, and you can take it off the top of your deck with the Trunks. Obviously, that's not in this list, so it's interchangeable. Which one do you want to play?
talking about Yamcha at 100%, you
Well, that's
guys
not
need
the
to
card I was
play
talking
it.
about, but
Yeah, but you brought it up, and then
Okay.
it reminds me
There you go.
that I am going to predict that card is going to increase in value and playability because I think it has a lot of synergy with the new Gohan leader.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, card's
35K,
very powerful.
35k can't be negated, deal 2 damage. Seems like a good way to close out when your leader is already guaranteeing they're at 4 life.
Right. Yeah, I can agree with that.
You guys heard it here first, folks.
Well, I think we've talked about just about everything we need to talk about.
Nope.
Except for
what
the
did we
13
forget?
other competitive decks you could take this weekend.
Yeah, there's a ton of decks.
So before we get into that, on that note, the only thing I want to like chip in right here real quick is because Aaron, the big admin dude for the group, is the only one who actually asked a serious question, and he wanted to ask Zapp if he thinks any of these decks in this new set will actually answer the current meta and what those decks might be.
Absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. Love you. So we talked about how the red burst Gohan is a great answer to Shenron Gogeta. It can help keep that thing modest. I think what else is really good right now? There is Toa's pretty popular right now, and Toa's a little weak to hand destruction. I bet Green Brawly would probably have a good matchup against Toa. I think what other Skillless is not a good deck. I don't know why people play it. Sorry, Shane. I love you.
Rude.
But
Damn, bro. He just called our decks trash.
Bro, we all played Skillless in that event.
are you serious?
Yeah, all 3 of us.
Yeah.
That's what I got top 8 with and hoping.
I scrubbed out with it, so I proved you right. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, but so on a serious note, I think there's a lot of black leaders like Toa and Demigra and Set 4 Mira and even Set 3 Mira. All of them, I think, do what Skillless does better, which is play an aggressive strategy that utilizes Overrun, where Skillless is just a aggressive deck.
It plays
So
vanillas.
but I think there's some cards that kind of keep it in line. Other than that, I think the new negates. I think they really are going to keep height of mastery modest. I'm not too worried about that. Not the leader. The only answer you have to it's the one off cold bloodlust. Like, I don't know. That
Right.
doesn't seem all that great.
Especially considering, like, if you look at Otakon, the Lith Mally one with wasn't playing the Martial Meisters, so the odds of drawing that one of Bloodlust is pretty.
Mm-hmm. You are correct. In general, I think the format's gonna go kind of have like three. I guess maybe you're gonna have wish-based strategies, so that's gonna mostly be Shenron or Blue Dende, AOD, Scuffle Time. I don't know, Boo aggro, and maybe Yellow Dende. Yellow Dende is weird because like you can't really decide how good it is until you know what else is in the format to decide what cards you can pull from their hand and determine the quality of it. I think you will have decks that try to win by going tall, and I think Triple Flash is going to be premium for that. Decks that go wide, I think Overwhelm based and Training Buddy Krillin based are going to be the best examples of that, followed by U6. And I think you're going to have decks that really focus on playing on the opponent's turn. So we looked at like the Iron Vow Trunks deck and the Pan deck. That's where I see the format kind of rounding into those four categories, and I think every deck in the format is probably going to include one or two of those categories. To answer Aaron's question.
Yeah, it's a fair answer. I mean, you basically touched on everything, so it. I mean, but you have a lot of experience in the well, I guess what did you call it? The professional brewing. Always got something on your mind. Always brewing something up. Always got decks in the oven. So, well, I think we've talked about everything. Is there anything else we forgot?
So I have the one question,
I don't think.
and you already kind of touched on it, but I just want to make sure that was your answer. So is that the one tip that you'd like to give to those people trying to be elite at home? Is have an open group of friends to at least be able to discuss cards with?
Well, what if they don't want to be elite? What if they want to be a geek?
They can do both.
They can do everything.
They can be a gamer too.
They can even subscribe to the 3XG Patreon because you guys are pretty awesome.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Yeah. So I mean, I gave two really important tips, but let me think of a third one just to extra credit for the boys that made it through all 65 minutes of this.
Right.
I think the player that has the most opportunity to grow is the player that makes the fewest assumptions, assuming what decks are good, what decks are bad, what cards are good, what cards are bad. When Set 6 came out and people asked me what I thought of the format, I told them that I thought every leader in Set 6 was going to be viable, except for Bojack and Kid Ku. And I was half wrong.
See, I'm screwed based on his advice.
Yeah. At the same time, I spent the majority of Set 6 testing Blue Dende, when literally every review I saw online wrote off that leader as a unplayable lesser version of Shenron. And I found like 4 decks that did what Shenron was trying to do better.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta, like you said, you gotta be able to take everything with a grain of salt. Not what everything you hear out there is true, and sometimes it's correct to just come to your own conclusions based off of your own experience.
Exactly. And you have to be ready to fail.
Correct. Failing has such a negative stigma in today's society, and it tilts me to no end. yeah, collect your own data, make your own hypotheses, and never be afraid to challenge those hypotheses. Because whenever the more steadfast you are in an opinion, the more likely you are to miss out on the next latest and greatest thing.
So something a mentor of mine told me recently is fail often, fail forward, and fail fast. You have an idea, make it, try it out. If it fails, learn from it, move on. You have some new information that maybe nobody else has. So
That's
There's
a lot of
always
Fs.
going to be another event.
That's more Fs than a 5-minute conversation.
Alrighty, well, I think we've touched on everything just about. This has been the GnG Elite DBS Podcast with Richard Zapp as our guest today. So we'll hope to see you next time. Stay elite.
And on the count of 3, 2, 1.
Okay, bye.
Bye.